Well, good morning. Welcome back to another edition of the Bakersfield Business Partners podcast. My name is Duncan Harris. I'm the owner of Insurance Savings Group, and I'm the past president of Bakersfield Business Partners. We're a BNI chapter here in Bakersfield. And by the way, recently ranked the #1 BNI chapter in California and the United States. And that was through a poll conducted by BNI. It was based on factors such as member IQ, intelligence, and personality. And we came out #1. So that's why we started this podcast, because we're just heads and tails the best group in town. So today we've got Marvin Bush with us. Marvin, thanks for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. And I think actually that may be worldwide.
I think it is probably worldwide. They're still gathering the results from Southern Asia, and then once those are tallied in, then they'll release the final
I'm pretty
rankings.
confident we'll come out on top on that one as well.
All right. So look, for those that don't know you, just introduce yourself, who you are, and what you do really quick.
So my name is Marvin Bush. I have my own real estate team. I'm currently with Miramar International here in Bakersfield. I've been buying and selling real estate in Bakersfield since 1986. So I've had a couple of days of experience doing that.
Dang, a little while. So, you've been on the podcast before. We've kind of gone over, in depth on the other podcasts, your background and why you like real estate. Tell me what's new. Tell me what's going on right now in the market that, people need to be aware of.
Well, one of the real benefits right now, that if you're unaware, is rates have been falling for several months now. In fact, since last December-ish, we've seen rates have been on a steady decline, and currently now for conventional rates, you can get something just under 6%. And then with FHA down closer to just over 4% on there. So
wow. So people are getting mortgages in the 4s and 5s again?
Or I'm sorry, just over 5%.
Okay, so people are getting 5% mortgages.
Yeah, 5% for FHA, or 5 1/8, 5 1/4 for FHA, and then just under 5.99 for conventional.
And that's
down from just under 8% back a year ago on there. So there's been a pretty dramatic decrease in rates, and it's obviously, it helps with buying power. It increases buying power pretty dramatically.
Yeah. So if someone's got like a $2,000 monthly budget or something, they can afford to buy a bigger house, essentially.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
So are we seeing buyers come into the market? Will that drive home prices up? I mean, how's that going to play out?
Well, I was reading an article yesterday, actually, that kind of addressed that here in California. So the projections are for 2025, they're expecting to see about a 10% increase in the total numbers of sales here in California. So there's going to be another frenzy or surge in buyers in the market on there. And we're starting to see buyers wake up again currently. And I think that once we get through this election cycle, things will kind of settle down. People will get refocused back on the day-to-day stuff. So.
And, how does that affect the homeowner who's selling their house? Are they listing it for a little higher? Or, does nothing change for them? What does that look like?
More buyers, more buyer demand. And obviously it's better for sellers as well. So it's always better when we have plenty of buyers in the market, because it's definitely creates stability. We're not seeing the crazy stuff that we saw back in 20 and 21, where we were seeing 10, 15, 20% increases per year on that. But we're still steady at 3 to 5% in this market, which is a very healthy appreciation on there.
I have some friends, and they've been saving money for a very long time, probably like 15 years, and they're just waiting for the housing market to crash again. They're expecting like a 2008 style crash. I still don't think they haven't bought a house. It's 2024, just so everyone knows. What advice would you give to those people?
Well, if they're planning on doing that, why don't they just take that money and invest it in a hamster farm or something, because that's the benefit that they're getting. If they've been waiting that long, they've missed out on all of that appreciation. And I can tell you that the stuff that I've read, we're still in the worst housing shortage in the history of this country.
Why is that? Give some numbers there.
Well, so currently the estimations are that we would need an additional 5 million homes nationwide just to catch up to where we need to be. And part of that reason is if you go back to 2008, 2009, 2010, whenever we were in the midst of the last real estate crash and the economy crash that we had. One of the things that happened in the real estate industry is when it came to building new builders. So typically in this country, we need about 1.2 million new homes a year just to stay even through attrition with fires, floods, hurricanes, tornadoes. So about 1.2 million homes a year is what we need just to stay even. The problem is that since that time, the highest year that we've had has been just right at 800,000. So every single year we're losing ground. And part of the issue is that a lot of those people that were in the building industry, they've left to go seek other opportunities because they were tired of the volatility of that particular industry. So getting skilled labor is extremely difficult. You guys have probably realized that the cost of things have gone up a little bit the last few years on there. So the cost of building has just become ridiculously expensive. And they just can't meet the demand for what we currently need. The last statistics that I saw here in California with affordable housing, at the rate that we're building affordable housing, we'll be caught up in about 55 years. So we do have a serious housing issue nationwide, and especially here in California.
So essentially then, if I could translate that answer, it is if you'd like to buy a house and you see yourself being in a house long term, you should buy a house. Don't wait.
Buy a house.
Buy a house. Yeah. Interest rates have come down, you said, over the last year. This could be a great opportunity then to get into a home and then see your the value of that home appreciate, and you might have build some equity. And you helped us do that. I think we started in 2011.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I think we were in that house for 4 years.
Right.
4 years. And I think in equity, I think we did close to $100,000 after 4 years.
Right.
Is that?
It's pretty close. Yeah. Those numbers are real close. And that's the part it's hard for people to understand. So your friend's the example of that. Is that when you look at the hundreds of thousands of dollars, if they've been saving for that long, they literally have missed out on hundreds of thousands of dollars of equity that they could have earned.
Right.
So the other thing to remember when it comes to people waiting for rates and stuff to drop. So the one thing to remember with interest rates, they're temporary. The equity that you build in your home is not. That is life-changing. And the stuff that I read, in fact, I just sent out, I do a monthly newsletter, just sent this out. The difference between a homeowner versus a non-homeowner, the typical homeowner has 40 times the wealth of a non-homeowner. And the majority of the wealth in this country with the typical family, the majority of their wealth is in their home.
In real estate.
So you can't argue with the track record of that. And the typical homeowner nationwide now has $300,000 in equity in their home. That's a chunk of money.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. There's been some other changes. I don't know if you call it a regulatory change or a law change on how agents get paid. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So everything that we've been doing for the last 50 years, the Department of Justice decided that it was not legal for us to do that, which I still don't understand the reasons why. However, it's like anything else. We just adjust accordingly and we move on. So the biggest change that happened is typically when we would list a home for sale, if I charged you 5%, or 6%, whatever the interest rate was, or whatever the commission rate was that we charged. Typically what would happen is we'd list the home for sale. If we get a buyer, we would give half of the commission that we charged to whoever represented the buyer. And the reason for doing that is that if you take the typical buyer, whenever they're buying the house, they have a down payment they have to come up with. They have inspection money that they have to come up with. They have to do appraisals. They have prepaid things like taxes and insurance and stuff that has to be paid.
They have a lot of out-of-pocket expenses.
They have a huge amount of out-of-pocket. And that's the reason that was set up initially. The one thing that was part of the lawsuit is commissions have always been negotiable on there. And there's a little bit of confusion with that. And we won't get into all the details, but that's the biggest thing that's changed. So now when I charge you to sell your home for you, I'll charge you either 2.5% or 3% commission typically.
Okay.
And then whenever the buyer sends an offer on their home, they'll send that offer, and they will also send a commission agreement for their realtor for the seller to pay that commission. And part of that is, once again, when you look at the stuff that the buyer has to pay, and then that commission or compensation on top of that, it just prices some people out of the market. So those are the biggest changes that we've seen. And then the other is, I can't show you a house now without having a buyer broker agreement in place. And that's something that changed as well. So just a lot of technicals with the business, but I will tell you, we are still doing business as usual on there. It's just a different way that we have to do it. We're getting to the same destination. We're just taking the scenic route now to get there.
It sounds like maybe the paperwork you have to do has changed a little bit.
Correct.
But ultimately, for people that are going to need to buy a house, they're going to be working with agents. People that are selling a house are going to be working with agents. The compensation will be close to what it was
correct
in the past.
Right. And they still, the one big thing to remember, it's still the same professional representation, whether you're a buyer or a seller.
Yeah.
We just have a different path that we have to take with paperwork and stuff that we didn't have to do a month and a half ago.
Got it.
On there.
Well, what else should we know? We're going to wrap things up. Give us the last little tips or keys on the market right now.
So the biggest thing that I could recommend, if you're thinking of buying, get pre-approved and buy a home. Because again, as rates fall, the demand is going to increase. And as the demand increases and we see that surge of buyers in the market, it is going to cause an increase in home values.
Mm-hmm.
And with just inflation alone, the values are going to continue to rise on there.
Right.
And again, there's a limited supply of homes on the market. We're still at very, very low numbers. And over the last couple of years, they're some of the lowest numbers that I've ever seen since I've been in real estate.
Lowest numbers of
homes available.
Homes available. Okay.
And part of the issue with that is most people are reluctant to put their homes on the market if they don't have some place to go on there. So here's a statistic for you that currently the largest number of buyers or of generations in this country are the millennials. They're the largest number. And right now there's about 70 million of them that are posed to get into the real estate market. The numbers are, we are over the next 5 years, we're looking at 30 to 40 million millennials that are going to be in the housing market. And that's going to change the demand dramatically in the market. Mm-hmm. So if you're considering, just bite the bullet, get pre-approved, buy a home. You will never regret it. My first home that I bought was in 1986, and I have never regretted it for a second.
What was the interest rate on that loan back in 86?
13.25%. So I honestly, when you're talking about 6 or 7%, I don't have a lot of sympathy because it's still a phenomenal rate. And if you look at over the last 50 years, 60 years, when you look at the average interest rate, it averages about 7.9%. Wow. So we are right on par with the normal track of where rates should be. So all of that stuff that was going on in 19, 20, 21, those 2-3%, forget them, because we are not going to ever see those rates again. Those were artificially manipulated, and they were just not realistic numbers on there.
What about, last thing, I mean, you must see people out there that are trying to buy or sell a house without an agent, right? I mean, what kind of advice or what pitfalls do you see those people falling into? What advice do they need to hear?
So on the selling side, the stuff that I have read on their national average, the difference in the amount of money that you get for your home trying to do it yourself versus hiring an experienced real estate agent, the difference that you get is generally about $28,000 less by not hiring a professional to get that done. When it comes to the buying side on there, why would you do that without an agent when we've seen in the market, we've seen all of the sellers so far are absolutely willing to pay that compensation for the buyer's agent? Why would you not want to be represented if it's not costing you anything? because our job ultimately is to protect our client on there.
Yeah.
And there's an awful lot of paperwork, awful lot of moving parts. So typical real estate transaction has 28 different professions involved in a typical real estate transaction. Are you going to be on top of all of that stuff that's going on? So.
Yeah, awesome, great advice. I mean, you've helped me and my family out personally with our real estate purchases. I'm just glad we jumped into the market. 2011, we got another home. We moved to a different home in 2015. Again, we have great appreciation in our equity there, and we also have a good interest rate too, which is nice. So, look, if someone wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
Just give us a call at the office at either 661-972-2700, or you can call me on my cell phone at 661-303-0776.
Awesome. Guys, give Marvin a call. We didn't have any issues, at least that we noticed. I'm sure he took care of everything when it came to our transactions, which was great. And the financial advice that he's saying is invaluable. So real estate's a real asset. It's going to appreciate. It's always going to be there for you. Let's talk about BNI, about Bakersfield Business Partners really quick. You've been a member how long?
Well, I was the originating member back in 2008.
There you go.
Whenever we started this group.
So is that 16 years? What are we at?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And just really quick, how has BNI helped your business grow?
Well, I will say this, that from a business standpoint, it's definitely helped my business grow. But the other benefit that I get, and the more important benefit, is having the ability to have 30 different professionals that I can refer my clients to, that I know that they're going to be taken care of. And that's much more of a benefit to me, is making sure my clients are taken care of. And it's also benefited me personally from a personal standpoint with just having personal things taken care of as well.
Awesome. Well, come check us out. Bakersfield Business Partners. We meet every Tuesday morning at 7:30, and we have a great group. It's about 30 professionals, and we're all in different classifications. So Marvin's the only real estate agent, and I'm the only health insurance guy. So you're not competing against anyone in there, and we're a networking group. The point of the group is to help our businesses, our members, grow through referrals. But really, the byproduct, and what is even more valuable, is the education and relationships that we get out of the group. We've got great members and a great long-term group. So come check us out. We're going to wrap up our podcast. Marvin, happy Friday. And until next Tuesday, we'll see you then.
We'll see you then.